Hello, and welcome to today's webinar. This is the weekly success schedule, and my name is Allyse Sedivy. I'm really excited to be with you today. And today we're going to talk about something really specific that I feel super passionate about. I know that many of you wonder how to succeed in doTERRA. What should I do? We go to different presentations, we hear different people speak, maybe we hear some ideas, and sometimes it feels like we're trying one thing and then another, and we're leading our team in this wild goose chase, right? Well, what we have found is that you have to have a completely clear path. And you just need to be just one or two steps ahead of all of your leaders to lead them. But everyone has to be on the same path, doing the same thing. And honestly, staying in the same direction is way, way, way more powerful than always changing directions. You've heard of the flywheel before, right? Because it takes some momentum to get the flywheel going. And once you stop it and try something else, it takes a lot more momentum to get it going. So, out of the hundreds of thousands of people that I work with all over the world, what I found is that really successful wellness advocates, they follow a specific schedule. And today we're going to talk about this specific schedule. This schedule is specific for people that are wanting to go diamond and above. But you don't do it once you're diamond. You do it at the very, very beginning as you're working your way through building through the ranks and creating residual income. So let me go over these 7 crucial activities for success. And before I mention them, I want to just tell you that, you can get caught up in doing so many different things. Sometimes I'll talk to people and they'll say, yeah, I'm doing doTERRA full time. I'm doing it 30 or 40 hours a week. But I look at their back office, or I look at, what they have to show for it, and it's very little. And I wonder to myself, what are they spending all their time on, right? I mean, are they just organizing their oils? Are they re-putting stickers on their oils? Are they spending their time just looking at the back office all the time? So what we really need to be doing is concentrating on just the crucial activities, the rain-making activities that really produce results in our business. You've all heard about, if you take a jar and you try and put the sand and the little rocks in first, then all the big rocks don't fit in. But if you actually stick the big rocks, the most important things, in first, and then you fill it around with the littler rocks and the sand, everything fits. That's a lot like how our businesses and our weeks are. If we put our crucial activities in first and make sure that we're doing these crucial activities every week, week after week, we will have incredible success. So the first thing that we need to make sure that we understand and that we learn about and perfect is the Introduction to Oils class. And we're going to go over all of these in a lot of detail. The second thing is our basic business training. The third thing is wellness consults. Number 4 is continuing education class. 5 are team calls. 6 are strategy sessions with key leaders. And 7, contacting and following up. And as we looked across our organization with lots of people that have become diamonds and blues and presidentials, we found these key components in their businesses. And these are the things that I've been doing week after week, month after month, year after year, to create a very, very solid and successful organization that gives me not only a lot of residual income, but time freedom also. So let's go over these one at a time. Now, the Introduction to Oils class is a really, really, honestly, besides contacting people and bringing them to the class, it's the most important activity. This is where we tell the story. This is where we share the power of essential oils. And this is where people get excited and they change their lives. And I have been all over the world and I've heard, hundreds of different oil classes that people teach. And many of them are very successful. What you need to remember is the Introduction to Oils class must be very simple, very easy to duplicate, and very, very, well, let me put it to you this way. I have a leader that lives in Las Vegas, and she is really, really talented when it comes to presentations. Not only does she give good presentations, but they're well thought out. And like at the beginning of her business, probably the first year and a half, she would just give these unbelievable presentations, and she's super thorough, and she does all the homework. Like she's put more time into these presentations than anyone I'd ever seen. And so she'd come up with a presentation like essential oils for dogs, essential oils for back to school, essential oils for, just everything, essential oils for allergies, essential oils. And everyone would come to these oil classes because they were so good. They were so incredible. Well, after about a year and a half in the business, she was getting really frustrated because her business wasn't growing. And it seemed like she was the only one that was presenting. Well, everyone in the class, of course, felt like, well, I could never present like her. So instead of me presenting, why don't I just go to her classes and bring people to her classes? Well, that's what I call an oil club. You're running an oil club. Everybody comes to hear you. You're doing the majority of the work. But unfortunately, oil clubs are fun and you have a great community, but unfortunately, they don't pay very well. And I told her, I said, you really need to simplify this down so it's duplicatable. Your class must be so easy and so simple and very interactive and fun that anyone that comes to the class could say, hey, I could do that. That's easy. So the number one thing with an oil class is must be simple and duplicatable and interactive and very, very fun. On the daily mentor calls, we teach you exactly how to teach a class like that. The other thing that you need to know is everyone should be teaching the exact same class. Don't change your classes. I mean, yes, every once in a while, like for continuing ed specifically, but also maybe for like a Super Saturday or something like that. When Dr. Hill comes, you're going to have different presentations. But for the most part, the class needs to stay the same. I know for some of you that seems boring, right? But you have to remember that all these people that come, it's the first time they've ever heard this. So how does a new person know what to even memorize or what to work on and what to perfect if it's always changing? So stick with the exact same class. And the other thing that I wanted to tell you is this. Your classes should be every week, right? You should hold a class at least every week in your local area. And they should be at the same place, at the same time, and on the same day. At the same place, same time, on the same day. Why? Well, I found this is one of the most important things for duplication, to speed up duplication. Because when you or your other sharers or leaders are out and talking with people, they never have to think to themselves, when's the next class and where is it going to be? Or let me get back to you. They always just know that whatever time you set up, like Wednesday or Thursday at 6 p.m., we always have an introduction to oils class, and this is where it is, and you can invite them there. It really speeds up duplication. It's imperative. I remember when we first started, we always had our classes the same place, the same day, the same time. And sometimes we'd have 4 people that would come, sometimes none, but we kept doing it because sometimes we'd have 60. And those are the most important part to having your introduction to oil class. Now, when we're going to talk about this weekly success schedule, okay? And I want you, as we go along, to actually fill out your week schedule. This is what the most successful doTERRA leaders do. They have a schedule for themselves, and they stick with that schedule. So the first thing that you need to do is to decide what day you're going to have your oil class and what time. So here we chose, Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. Now, in your area, it might be different. There's some areas that Saturdays and Sundays are great days. When I was putting this together, I'm from Utah, and Fridays and Saturdays were not good days because that's when people were with their kids. And Sundays, nobody wanted to do anything on Sundays. And Monday also wasn't a good day. So we knew that Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays for our area were the best days to have classes. And your area might be a little bit different, but you need to just figure that out and put it on the schedule and commit. I'm going to have at least one oil class every single week, the same place, the same time, the same day. So next, the basic business training. Now, a lot of people are a little bit nervous about this. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what that looks like. If you want a lot more details, you can go and listen to the Daily Mentor Calls. It's on dailymentorcalls.com. But a basic business training is something that happens immediately after the class. Immediately after the class. So you have your class, everyone's signing up, and you basically say, oh my goodness, if everyone wants to stay and have some essential oil snacks, we're going to talk about the joy of sharing essential oils. And that's what it's called, right? It's only 20 minutes long. And that is why we never, ever have food at our regular intro classes. We always bring out the food at the end of the basic business training because you give everybody an opportunity to just be exposed to sharing the business. And the more exposures that they have, the more likely they are to get involved. If you're struggling with finding sharers or builders, a lot of people will come up to me and say, gosh, I can sign up product users, but I'm really struggling on finding sharers and finding builders. This is one of the key things that needs to happen. And if you're not doing this right after the class, you're missing a huge part of the business. Now, the question is, why do we do it right after the class? Well, the simple answer is because they're already there. They're already there. You don't need to have them come back on Saturday. You don't need to have them come back, the next night. They're already there. Of course, we're going to have basic business training right after the class. So people that are already there stay. Do all of them stay? No. But many of them do, especially if you have essential oil treats in the second class. And by the way, you bring those out at the end of the class, not at the beginning. And this is a really easy overview. This is definitely not the time that we're drawing circles or talking about the power of three or anything like that. So this is how a basic business training goes. The first thing is we talk about building a pipeline. Now, I'm sure that most of you should have heard the story about the man who's hauling buckets, right? He's hauling buckets every day and he decides finally to build a pipeline. If you don't know that story, you can actually go to doTERRA's sharing section or building section and you'll find that there are little handouts, right? But I actually have my leaders and sharers memorize that story because you use it all the time in this business. So first you tell the story about building a pipeline and why residual income would be important for them. Secondly, you're going to give a simplified compensation plan. Really, really simple. Basically, it's super easy. You can go into just some of the benefits of building, some of the dreams that, possibly you could even say, I like to use the build guide when it just talks about, hey, a silver can make this much and a gold can make this much and a platinum. And this is about how many hours they put in. And I just kind of give them what's possible in the business. But the most important part of a basic business training is the business success stories. And this is where you just share, not money. We're not going to say, I make this much or I make that much, but you share simple stories that have changed people's lives. For example, you could say, I have a friend that has an autistic child, and she was really wanting to get this autistic child into a school that was specific for him, that really, really met his needs, but she didn't have enough money for it. And after just about 12 months of sharing the product, sharing essential oils, she was able to finally put her son into this school for autistic children, and it was a dream come true for her. I mean, whatever stories that you have in the business, right? Or that you know of, or that your team knows of, you can share. And if there are other, then there should be other wellness advocates there, right? They can share also. Now, if you're looking for incredible stories, all you have to do is open up doTERRA's leadership magazine, and there's so many stories in all of those magazines about business success. So the third part of this basic business training is where people start thinking, boy, I really need a second car, but I don't have the money to make that second car payment. Or, gosh, my husband's job is really hurting his back, and it's getting worse and worse. And I would love to be able to bring him home and work with him from home. Things like that. People start dreaming about it. They start planning for it, and it's powerful. So this is the basic business training. If you want to know more about the basic business training and all the scripts and in detail, go to dailymentorcalls.com, and you can find out more about that. So this is the second thing that you need to get good at. And I know that some of you that are listening to this are thinking, oh, that's kind of scary. I'm scared of the business. This is really a fun class. It's just 20 to 30 minutes long. And I promise you, if you'll change this one thing in your business, you'll find many more sharers and builders. This is where it begins. Next. So right here, you're going to put into your schedule whenever you have, your class right after it is, and it doesn't last an hour, but we didn't have half an hour segments. So you just put your basic business training, and you look at, here your schedule is kind of shaping up for the week. Okay, the next thing are wellness consults. Now, wellness consults are critical. They're critical to the growth of our company. The reason why is because 85% of the people that join doTERRA, that enroll with doTERRA, just want to use the product. They are not interested in sharing or building, and they want to use the product, and that's great. And the way that we support them is actually giving them a wellness consult right after they sign up, like right when they get their oils, 4 or 5 days later. Now, how many wellness consults do you have to do? Well, you do as many as people that you personally enroll. You're only doing wellness consults to the people that you personally enroll. So if you personally enroll one person a week, you'll do 1 wellness consult a week. If you enroll 8 a week, you would do 8 wellness consults a week. But if you're enrolling 8 a week, you're off to the races and amazing anyway. So if you want to know exactly how to do wellness consult and exactly how that works and all the scripts with it, go to dailymentorcalls.com. So these wellness consults are super critical, and you schedule them. What I like to do is have a couple of times during the week that I'm free, that I actually put into my schedule. And some of you would have to put some in the evening for people too. But here it's, Tuesdays from 1 to 2, or Fridays, 11 to noon, where you can actually go over to somebody's house and sit down and have a wellness consult with them. And so after a class, when somebody signs up, you could say, hey, I have Tuesdays open or Fridays open. And hopefully they can fit into one of those 2 slots. And if they have to choose a different time, then you just, fit it into your schedule. So that's the wellness consult. Super, super critical for getting people on LRP. This is where the beauty comes into getting people on LRP, is because it's at the wellness consult that you can go into detail about life on vitality and everything that their family needs, and you set them up for success in that way. So our weekly success schedule is kind of shaping up here. Let's go to the next thing. The next thing is continuing education. Now, the continuing education classes are critical. Let me tell you why. They're one of the 7 foundational activities that we do. A lot of people, when they first get to know essential oils, it's still hard for them to understand the concept and know how to use it. And it's just not part of their daily routine. So when they come to a first class and they buy their kit, it's great that you go over to their home and you get them started, and you give them like a morning, afternoon, and evening, protocol. But still, they need more information for them to really assimilate these oils into their daily lives. For them to reach for natural products instead of over-the-counter and prescription medications, it's critical that they know more. So at the wellness consult, at the end of the wellness consult, you're going to be inviting them to come to continuing education. And there's so many ways to do this, so many awesome, incredible ways to do this, right? And we go into great detail on the daily mentor calls about continuing education. But I mean, you can give giveaways, we like to give these little cards, like these kind of like business cards that have the 8 different product classes on the front and the 4 different business classes on the back. And if somebody were to come and check off all of the product classes, then they get a free diffuser, a small little diffuser that are cheaper for free when they do that. And it's way worth your time and your money. Why? Well, because if somebody comes to those 8 classes, they are going to fall in love with essential oils, and they will be using essential oils for the rest of their lives. It's very worth the investment. On the other side is the business education classes, and there's 4 of those. And if they come and check off those 4 classes, it's a huge, huge possibility that they're going to be sharing and building. Now, what is the goal of continuing education? We need to talk about that for a minute. What's the goal? The goal is to expose people to enough products that, and not only expose them to enough products that they're going to be using, but show them at the end of every single class how to put those products on their LRP. And so they're using these products, and after they're exposed to this many products, our goal is to have 4 or 5 things that they fall in love with that they literally can't live without, and that they need to buy for the rest of their lives. And that's our goal with continuing education. And when we do this for everyone in our organization is strong. The product users love the oils. They never stop buying. We don't have to constantly find new people just to fill holes, because we're retaining them. That's one of the reasons why doTERRA has such a high retention rate, right? And these classes, these are the 8 classes that we recommend. You can do whatever classes you want, but we recommend these: Essential Oils 101, the Power Behind Proper Health and Lifelong Vitality, so it's a lifelong vitality class, Healthy Weight Lifestyle, Emotional Wellness, Hormone Balance and Mood Management, Body Balancing with Aroma Touch, Skin Care, Essential Science, and Pain Management. And you have one every single week. And those rotate week after week after week. You go through all 8, and then you start at the very beginning. And you don't stop. I mean, every single area that we opened up, we started continuing education, right? And it goes on year after year after year. And it's a beautiful thing. I remember when we first started continuing education classes in Utah, sometimes we'd have like 125 or 150 people at these continuing education classes, and they were loving to learn about the product. Well, the product education part of continuing education would be the first hour. So it's a 2-hour continuing education class. The first is product. So all the people that are interested in the product come to this product education class, right? And you don't give out treats or food or anything at that class. Does this sound familiar to you? The second hour is the business education class. And that's when you bring out the treats and invite people to stay. Some people do, some people don't, but it exposes them. Look at how many exposures you'll have. If they come to those 8 product education classes, 8 exposures to the business. Every single time they come, they get a chance to stay and listen to the business education. The first class we recommend is Getting Started, which is basically making a list, sampling people, inviting to a class. The second class is a full compensation plan, so they understand how the compensation plan works. The third class is how to teach an essential oil class. So you go over exactly how to teach a class and have them role play so they're ready to go. And the fourth class is Elite in 6 weeks, how they can actually build a business to become elite in just 6 weeks. And those classes also rotate every 4 weeks. They rotate, and so you go through them every month, And the product education you go through every 2 months. Now, are you the only one that has to teach these classes? Absolutely not. If you have leaders on your team that are maybe great with skincare, well, have them come and teach the skincare class. If you have leaders that know a lot about lifelong vitality, have them teach that class. If you have some leaders that are just super good with the business, have them help you with the business education. I know at the beginning of an area, a lot of times you have to teach a lot of them. And then as you bring people on, you get them involved teaching these continuing education classes. They're powerful. They're super effective. And if you don't do them, you're like literally leaving 85% of your check on the table. You're not helping the 85% of people that just want to be using the oils. This is a critical component of your business. If you're not doing these, well, you're not growing as fast as you could. So, and some people do, live is always more effective. But many people do them online or a combination of both because they have teams all over. And that's fine too. So the next thing we're going to talk about is where you put these. We liked to do continuing education when it was live, right? Saturday mornings. It just seemed like people had time on Saturday mornings and they could show up and they could come to the product and stay for the business. Some of you might think that Wednesday's better. Some of you Tuesday. Some of you might do a combination between live and online. That's great. But it's a 2-hour block of your schedule. And that's continuing education. And we go into a lot more detail and a lot of fun stories. So go check out dailymentorcalls.com and you can listen to all the continuing education details. And by the way, you can go online and just put doTERRA continuing education and find so many different PowerPoints and presentations. And so you don't have to recreate the wheel. A lot of it is done. And I know that at Oil Life and Aroma Tools, they actually have packets that you can buy with continuing education handouts. So what's our next crucial part of the business? That would be a team call. Now, all the diamond teams should have a team call. If you're diamond and above, you should be leading a team call. And these team calls are to connect everyone on the team. A lot of times, there are people that get left out, that they don't have a supportive upline. They don't even know who their upline is. They don't know kind of what's going on or what things are happening. And so this is kind of a call that's a catch-all that gets everyone on the same page. And this is how the team call goes. They're 30 minutes long. If you make them longer than that, people just don't jump on the call. The first 2 minutes are a welcome. The next 5 minutes are a specific training on an oil or a product. Now, this isn't overwhelming. It's super easy, actually. You can just open the book, the Essential Life book, and there you can go to even just an oil, and it will tell you where it's from, how it works, all the components of it. It's super easy to teach. And then you just give some testimonials about it or ask some people on your team to give testimonials, which brings me to my next point. If you're the only one talking on this call all the time, it's really boring and it's not interactive. And so getting a lot of people to help with the team call is really, really important. The next 15 minutes is you're going to train on a specific business skill. Well, how do you know what business skill to train on? Well, you find out as you're doing your strategy sessions with your key leaders, which we'll talk about next. So if they're telling you, I'm having a really hard time getting my people to leadership, well, then you have a business training on, the power of leadership and why we should be there. Or if somebody is saying, geez, I'm just really struggling and my team's really struggling with closing people at the end of a class. So then you would have a specific training on closing or LRP or, contacting or following up, whatever it is. You kind of get the pulse of your team, find out what's happening. And the way that you do that is through strategy calls, right? And then you pick a specific business skill to train on. Now, what if you don't know how to train on that? What if you don't know it yourself? Well, there's a lot of things online. you have an upline and crossline, sidelines that can help you. I can't tell you how many times people have said, could you just record something on this specific topic and send it to me and I'll play it on my call. And I'm like, yeah, sure. So after that, you have 5 minutes of recognition and or testimonials. Now, recognition on this call is a little bit different than just, here's all the people that rank advanced, which is important to say also. And here's all the people that are the top earners and are, signing the most people up. After a while, this gets pretty demotivating. It's demotivating to a lot of your team because it's usually the same one or two people that are winning everything. It's like, I don't know. Let's pick the name of Janie, Janie's always winning, right? It's like, who has the most signups this month? Janie. Who rank advanced? Janie. And after a while, they're like, I don't even want to hear about Janie anymore. And it's actually demotivating. Now, if Janie did rank advanced, it's a great thing to talk about, but you can do recognition in a very different way on these calls. You could recognize people's efforts. Like, for instance, hey, we want to hear from Lisa because Lisa this week drove 2 hours in the middle of the night just to help out a little boy. Like, Lisa, come and tell us what your motivation is for sharing essential oils. Or Margie actually sold a diamond kit this week. We want her to come on and tell us how she does that. And so we can, up ourselves with bigger kits, whatever it is. You can recognize all different things. And it's important that you switch up recognition so that a lot of different people get recognized. And the very last part of a team call is reminders and closes. Basically, upcoming events, promotions, if leadership is coming up or you have, new promotion that month, or if Dr. Hill's going to be in the area, or team events that are going on, all those things that you need to remind people the last 3 minutes. Keep them short, keep them to 30 minutes long or less, right? And this is something that I recommend that only diamonds and above should be leading. Because if your team's really small, team calls aren't very fun. They're not very interactive. You don't hear from a lot of different people. I mean, when there's only like 5 people on the call, it's not as fun as when there's 50, right? But if you are a gold or a platinum and you have a really big team, then you might want to think of, starting your own team call. If you're not doing team calls right now, look to your diamond upline. If they're not doing team calls, get them to do team calls, ask them to do it, or go even up to the next diamond upline on your team and join your team with their team calls. All right, now, when do we do team calls? When's the best time? Well, obviously it's at the beginning of the week because you want to get people like revved up and pumped up and trained for the beginning of the week so they'll have a great week. You wouldn't do it on Friday or Saturday because things kind of die down, right? And they kind of forget about things. So I like to do team calls on Monday nights. Tuesday nights would be like the latest you'd do it. But Monday nights, moms have kids in bed, or they're home from work, dads are home from work, and it seems to work out really, really well then. So here we go. Our weekly success schedule is kind of shaping up. We're getting more things on it. Next, strategy sessions with key leaders. So I started strategy sessions at the very, very beginning of the business because I talked to somebody in another company actually that was making $300,000 or $400,000 a month. And the one thing he told me is you need to do strategy sessions with your leaders every single week. And he taught me how he did strategy sessions, and it was really like business changing for me. So we went back and we revamped things, and we made sure that we had strategy calls every single week. Once again, we set them up so they're the same day at the same time every single week. And we did this literally week after week, month after month, year after year. I mean, just this week, I did a bunch of strategy sessions with my key leaders. I think that if the only time they're hearing from you is at the end of the month because you need to make sure that they're getting their power of three in, or that they have enough volume for you to rank advance. After a while, people feel really used and they don't feel like you're a team. And these are the people that are creating your residual income. So it's really important that you connect. Now, you wouldn't do these strategy sessions with, product users. It would drive them crazy, or even sharers. But you would do it with builders that are qualifying you in your qualifying legs. And I have to say this, if your builders stop saying, or they start saying, hey, I don't really want to get on strategy sessions anymore, or they don't want to get on them in the first place, you have to ask yourself why. And it's kind of an obvious answer, and that is because you're not giving them value. If you were giving them value every single week, they would absolutely not miss a week. And value meaning putting your time, your effort, and your resources into them. Because if they're building a business and they know that somebody is putting their time and their effort and resources into them, they don't want to miss those resources that go into them. I remember I had one of my leaders, her name is Molly Dayton, would come over for her strategy session. And right when it was her time to have strategy sessions, she would start knocking on the door saying, hey, it's my turn. It's my turn. And she'd keep knocking until I would finish with the person in front of her, because she valued them so much. Now, I usually have strategy sessions with my leaders until they become diamond. And after they become diamond, well, they can choose if they still want to have strategy sessions, and some of them didn't. I remember I had a leader that said, the only reason why I want to go diamond is so I can stop having strategy sessions with you, because it was intense sometimes, right? What, I held them accountable to. And some of them had strategy sessions all the way through till they went presidential diamond. So, but I kept in really, really close contact with them until they went diamond. And these are how these calls go. The first step is to reconnect and ask discovery questions. Like, how'd your week go? What good things happened this week? What are the things you're frustrated with? Step number 2 is to review your goals and priorities and action items from the last week. Now, a strategy session is not meant to be a counseling session. And it's also not meant to be a whining session, right? So what I found is that if you have actionable things, actionable items that you work on together, not just saying, okay, great, good ideas, go to it, but you say, how can I help? What's my part? What can I do, right? And you work on these things together. If they're making progress every week, well, they're not depressed and they're not upset, and they're usually not complaining if they're doing these actionable items. So for me, what I say is I basically say, okay, well, let's set up an action plan for the next coming week. And it's usually, I have them choose 3 things that they're going to be working on. The 3, I usually say, hey, what are the 3 most important things, 3 critical things for you that if you got these 3 things done, you could look back at the week and say, that was a good week. I did well with doTERRA this week. And we put those 3 things down. And then I ask them, okay, so when will you get these done in the week? And they give me a date, and I put that in my calendar and they put that in theirs. So if, for instance, if they say, well, I want to reconnect with the 2 people that didn't come to the class. And I'm like, okay, when do you want to get that done by? And they say Wednesday night. And I'm like, okay, well, let's put that down in my phone and your calendar and your phone. And Wednesday night, I would send a text saying, hey, how did this work out? Like, were you able to connect with them? And it's holding them accountable and reminding them throughout the week what's going on. And then I'll ask them, do you need help with that? Do you need my help with that? And most of the time they'll be like, no, I really don't. But let's say, their goal was, I really, really need to connect with the person that told me last week they were interested in building, and now they're not really connecting well with me. And I say, well, do you need help with that? And they say, well, yeah, I would love to have a 3-way call scheduled with you. And I'd say, okay, great, let's do that. So I'm actively working in their business with them, right? So that's how you set up these action plans, and they should have at least 3 different actions that they choose that they want to accomplish that week in doTERRA, and you hold them accountable to it and remind them. Step 4 is you put those items into your calendar, like I just talked about, and then step 5 on your calls is just giving them important reminders, right? Remember to do this. Remember that leadership is. Remember this is the last tickets or the last chance to buy your tickets. Remember we have sponsoring promo from the company or the Rose promotion or whatever it is, and that is a strategy session. So these have worked really, really well for me. In fact, I have like sheets that I use that I keep track. I remember I had a binder for every one of my leaders, and I would keep these sheets in this binder so I would know week by week what I was following up with, what his actions were. Now I keep it in my phone, but I do the exact same thing. So if you'd like these strategy session sheets that you can work off of, just go to dailymentorcalls.com and you'll find all the information there under strategy sessions with key leaders, okay? So that's the next crucial activity. And if your leaders are full-time, I usually give them an hour. If they're part-time, I schedule them in for a half an hour, but I put them all together. So if you see right here in the yellow, I schedule all the strategy sessions together. So let's say I have 4 full-time, leaders, which a lot of people don't. That would be, I would say, okay, from 9 to 10, I have one, from 10 to 11, from 11 to noon, and noon to 1. And I put them back to back. And the reason why I do that is because it keeps us not talking too long. It keeps us, aren't on target, because the next person is either calling in or coming over to my house and having strategy sessions. Now, most of you won't have 4 full-time leaders to give an hour to. Most of you will have part-time leaders, which is just a half an hour. So it would be even less time out of your schedule than this. Now, if they're working or they're doing things like that, you might have to put it later in the day. I love to have strategy sessions on Monday. Monday's my strategy day because I get them set up for the rest of the week. If you have it on Thursday or Friday, the week's almost over. And so it's really hard to give 3 actionable items when the week's almost over and then the weekend comes and it's easy for them to forget. So and also with the strategy calls, I never say, well, let's just call sometime. Let's just touch base. That doesn't work. It has to be the same time every week and the same place, either on the phone or at your house or whatever, right? But they call you. I never like hound down people to call me. If I'm giving them a lot of value, they'll want to do a strategy session with me. So they call me, and if there is a point where somebody is just not being involved and they're not, calling and they're kind of dogging out on a lot of their strategy sessions, I'll go back to them and say, well, it looks like, this isn't working well for you and it's a waste of your time. And I want to make sure that I value your time and my time. So either you could move that to maybe once a month, or, you could give it a break and see if they will need strategy sessions a little bit later when they're a little bit more committed. Okay, so let's go to next and final. This is the final crucial activity. It should be number 1, but I put it at the end just so it's not overwhelming. But if we're not contacting and following up with these contacts, nothing happens in our business. We can't assume that our leaders are going to contact and following up without us doing it. It's really crucial and it's super, super elementary that if we want more people in our pipeline and our business to be growing, we have to share the story with other people. So when it comes to contacting and following up, I recommend that anyone that you talk to or follow up with yet that is not signed up in doTERRA, that's, contacting and following up isn't talking to your doTERRA people or calling someone that has already signed up in the business. This isn't contacting and following up. We're talking about anyone that is not yet signed up in doTERRA. That is considered contacting and following up. try to contact and follow up at different times on different days. And I'll show you what that looks like in your schedule. And the reason why is if you're only contacting and following up from 9 to 10 every morning, or from 9 to 10 2 or 3 times a week, what if everyone's in yoga, the ones that you want to get a hold of? Or what if this is a bad time for people working? So what I found is if I break up the times that I contact and follow up, like maybe one in the morning, maybe another day in the afternoon, and maybe one in the evening, that I hit people at different times, and it's a lot more effective. So I like to, when I'm contacting and following up, cluster them together so that, like if I'm calling people, right? So that I can be really, so my mind's in the right place and I can be really effective. So it's not just random here or there, because it's really hard to tell if I'm just calling here or there randomly, how much time I'm really putting into contacting and following up. And just for a rule of thumb, if you're looking for a business builder, someone who's committed and capable, right? You usually need to sign up about 4 people that say they're interested or want to share, because one of them probably won't go as fast as you want them to do. One of them won't do much. The other one will start building and then kind of maybe die down a little bit. And then they're usually 1 out of 4 is exactly the pace and the rate that you want to go at. So I usually, whatever number I'm looking to fill a position or a new leg, I times that by 4. Now, so what you're going to do is you're just going to take contacting and following up, and you're going to randomly put them where it feels good. And I recommend at least 4 hours a week of contacting and following up. 4 hours where you're doing nothing else but just contacting new people that have not yet signed up and following up with people that have not yet signed up in the business. And this is what a successful schedule looks like for diamonds and above. Now, what I want to do is I want to actually count up the hours. And let's look what this looks like. And most of you don't even have this many strategy sessions, but there's 4 hours here for strategy sessions, 4, 5. So we're starting at Monday, 6, 7 on Tuesday, 8 on Wednesday, 9, 10, 11 on Thursday, 12, 13 on Friday, 15, 16 on Saturday. So we're up to 16 hours a week. And then maybe 4 hours that you'll have maybe traveling or answering people's questions, calling people back, right? So you're at a 20-hour a week work schedule for doTERRA, 20 hours. That's part-time, right? But this is what sets people up for diamond. And over time, the average diamond makes $16,000 a month. So my question to you is it worth putting this success schedule together for you and doing these 7 crucial activities for a year? And if you keep consistent week after week, month after month for a year, you have an amazing chance of going diamond. So I think that time, 20 hours a week, is very, very, very worth the payout. And the other thing that's really interesting is when you're putting all these crucial activities first into your week, I want you to look at all the white space all over. You still have a lot of time. I mean, obviously the first thing you need to do is put your work schedule and things that you need to do with your kids. And then find this time all over the week. And even those people that say, I'm so busy, when we actually schedule it out, they do have time, and it's worth the time. Instead of doing other activities that won't lead to your success, I recommend highly doing all of the weekly activities, the ones that are most important, that absolutely will lead to your success. Thank you so much for being with me today. And I hope we talk to each other really soon. Bye-bye, everyone.